Hey guys, it's JD here. Just want to give you a quick heads up on this week's episode. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties with the audio. There's some, I'll be honest, some kind of annoying crackling and popping that happens in this recording, especially as we get towards the end of the episode. And then at one point, the noise just got unbearable, and so we have a pretty sudden conclusion to the episode. We apologize for that. I'm going to look into it and figure out exactly what was going on. Michelle's going to tell you it's because I decided to record this episode in bed. I don't think that was the case. I think I've got a bad cable somewhere. Doesn't matter. I apologize for the audio quality. We'll get it all sorted out in time for the next episode. I assure you it is still listenable, but there's some snap, crackle, popping going on in there. Be prepared for it. And without further ado then, here's our Shrew's Nest episode.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is Michelle, and who's here with me?
JD!
It's JD.
It's always JD.
Always JD. Awesome.
JD's laid up in bed trying to record this podcast in a relaxing posture, and man, what a mistake that was, guys.
You look anything but relaxed right now.
No, it was a great idea in theory. In execution, it was terrible. You probably won't ever notice the difference, but I'm the kind of guy who's going to make sure you know. So there you go. JD's recording this from in bed this evening. Very professional.
I am jogging 8 miles on a treadmill right now. I'm very much into fitness.
You and me both.
Yeah, love it. Love running and recording.
Sure.
Well, hello. If you have just tuned in for the first time, hi, we watch Shudder. Shudder is a horror streaming service. It has horror-adjacent movies, and we love it. They don't pay us money, which means that we get to sometimes talk about movies that we hate, which is really convenient for us because you know, we kind of love to hate them sometimes. Today,
it's definitely nice to be able to express negative opinions occasionally.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel bad giving them like bad scores, which I mean it happens sometimes, and I don't like it. I feel bad. I'm a soft person, but it's good to know that we have the freedom to do so if we want to.
And we're always going to make sure that you know the difference between, like, did we think this was a bad movie or did we think this was a fucking bad movie? You know, well, some of them, they just don't quite work, right? They're noble efforts, but they just don't all come together. And some of them are trash, but not all of them. Why are we suddenly talking about how we hate movies on this horror movie podcast, Michelle?
Because I said we love to hate, and then we had to go on. Now I'm curious to know how we feel about today's movie.
I am too.
Shrew's Nest.
Nest.
So Shrew's Nest, which is Monsignor. Nope, I tried. JD, you speak Spanish.
What? First of all, no, I don't.
Well, you understand it better than me.
What name are we looking at?
I was looking at the original title of Musarañas, which I believe means shrews. I thought I could pronounce it, but after 2.5 years of Duolingo, I still have no idea how to not sound like Peggy Hill.
Well,
Yo como manzanas.
For what it's worth, I'm not even on a page that shows me that original name, so you're a step up on me.
Yay. Okay, well, Musarañas, Shrew's Nest, is the movie that we're reviewing today. We didn't have a new exclusive or original out on Shudder this week, so we decided to watch something from the catalog that we have not seen. This is the oldest exclusive in their catalog that we have not seen, and I believe neither of us had seen it before tonight.
No,
correct?
I had not seen this film before watching it just earlier this evening. I got done with it about an hour and a half ago. First time I've ever taken a look at it. So this is a whole experience for us and everybody else. Michelle.
Awesome. Yeah.
So sometimes we read the description, or as I've taken to calling it, the descripy script, from the Shudder website, but sometimes we don't. Are we going to do that today or not?
We are not going to read the descripy script of this one. It gives a little too much away.
We are definitely not going to read it. I do want to read part of it. I want to read a little bit from that second part where it talks about some of the accolades the movie received, just to give people
For
a little bit of
sure.
a... Yeah, so what it says here, there's a whole section where it gives you some plot details, and there's just too much there. But then it goes on to talk about some things here. Macarena Gomez, who is one of the stars of the film. First of all, I love the fact that her name is Macarena. I'm sure somebody is going to find that somewhat insensitive, but I'm sorry. In America, hey, Macarena. I bet she gets that all the time. My name,
I'm sure she's so tired of it, but I really do.
Right. I mean, look,
it's
guys,
just
I
a
call
good
myself,
word.
I literally call myself JD because my first name is Jeremiah, and I'm so tired of people calling me a bullfrog, right? It's been literally my entire life. So I'm right there with you, Macarena
Jeremiah.
Gomez.
Hey Jeremiah, were you a bullfrog?
I will light you on fire, Michelle. I will light you on fire. Anyway, it says here about Shrew's Nest.
I'm also Michelle Mybell, so I get it. I get it.
And my Michelle, yeah, there's a lot of Michelles out there.
Yep. There's the one song about Michelle being
directed
a
and I believe also co-written and co-directed by Juanfer Andres and Esteban Roel. And then it says, Macarena Gomez received a Goya nomination for her chilling lead performance in this gory Grand Dame Guignol, which pays homage to Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Misery, produced by Spanish horror master Alex de la Iglesia, a Shudder exclusive, contains violence and gore. That's always a good indication. Contains violence and gore. So Michelle, why don't we give people some spoiler-free thoughts here, especially considering, man, how how did we feel about this movie? We're all about to find out together. Do you want to go first, or should I?
I'll go first.
Okay, you go right ahead.
I'm so curious. If you're new to this, we never talk about the movie until we start recording because half of the fun for us is just figuring out how the other person felt about it. I loved this. I did not expect to love it at all. It's very slow in the beginning, but then when it ramps up, it really ramps up, and it makes all of those tense moments in the beginning that feel a little too long and dramatic and makes them totally, totally worth it. I was very surprised by this. I watched it with a friend of mine, and they kind of near the beginning, I was like, are you paying attention to this movie? And he's like, yeah, no, I kind of am. It's just, and I was like, yeah, okay. I was just curious. And then near the end, both of us were just transfixed. This one takes a little bit to get there, but then, whoo boy, it gets there all right. I'm surprised that I am giving this a 4.5 skull out of 5 rating.
4.5 skulls from Michelle on Shrew's Nest. And so I took a look at this movie here this evening, and I don't entirely disagree with you on this. This is actually getting really, really weird because, yeah, there are moments in the script of this movie where a couple of things they happen kind of conveniently. And there's a little bit of just, some horrifying Deus Ex Machina that goes on. Some things that I think could have been handled a little bit more deftly and interestingly in the scripting. But overall, I thought this was a really interesting and well-executed film about trauma and about secrets. And about violence
and gore
for sure. I really enjoyed this movie. I came down on a 4 skull on this one.
Awesome. So that gives us a 4.25 out of 5 skull average, which, I mean, we don't always agree, but this one is definitely, check it out. If you think that this might be something that is your cup of tea, definitely go watch it. I truly think that if you can sit through the beginning and like slow horror and just tense buildup isn't really your thing, it does truly pay off. It's
and what they say, I brought this up specifically and read that portion of the description specifically because I think it's very important. Those 2 films that they mentioned there, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Misery. The entire time I was watching this movie, I was like, because I'm always also trying to figure out, like, what kind of horror movie is this, right? Especially for one that I don't know a lot about. I would say this film it has if you're a fan of Stephen King and his more real world stuff, like Misery, like Gerald's Game, the stuff that's not quite as fantastical and things like It or Dreamcatcher, that sort of thing, or even I would say like, if you're into stuff like Silence of the Lambs, that sort of it's definitely in that thriller realm. In that I don't even know that I personally would necessarily call this a horror movie, except for then it is towards for the longest time I was like, oh, this is more just kind of a moody and then, oh man, it is. But if you're into that sort of thing, I think Shrew's Nest is definitely going to be for you. It does have an overall 5-skull aggregate rating on Shudder right now from all of the users' submitted reviews. And if you're not familiar with the Goyas, if I understand correctly, it's basically the Spanish version of the Oscars. And so this was a well-heralded film. I think a lot of you who, even if you're not super into horror movies in general, this might be one that you're able to enjoy.
Yeah. If you have a really low threshold for fear, I think this one's not really going to scare you. It's just going to intrigue you more than anything. And I know we have some people out there who hate scary.
Yeah, if you have a low threshold, however, for gore and violence, you might want to avoid this one.
But you might want to check it out, too.
Exactly.
Live a little dangerously.
All right. So if you guys, if maybe we've convinced you that you want to go check this one out before we get into the spoilers, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that. Make sure you come back after you're done and listen to the rest of the episode. But go ahead and hit that pause button right about now. All right, Michelle, so hopefully they all came back. If they didn't, look, frankly, I don't care. I'm here to talk about movies. Whether or not people listen is secondary. This is an ego trip all of my own. And so with that in mind, why don't you start by telling us a bit about this movie, maybe break out down the plot a little bit for those who aren't necessarily interested in going back to watch it and just want to hear us comment on it.
For sure. So first off, I'm listening to you, JD, so you have at least one person who cares about your thoughts. On to the plot. So this is about a woman named Monse and her younger sister. Pause for just a moment.
Do you really care about my thoughts, or are you just listening to my thoughts to also be able to include your thoughts?
I legitimately want to hear your thoughts on movies. You pick up on things that I do not. Ever since that Mad God episode, I'm like, JD's brilliant. This was a great idea.
Goddamn good. Oh.
You're like, it doesn't have a lot of plot, and then you explained a lot of plot.
Yeah, if you still haven't seen Mad God, go watch it. Holy shit. That movie is fantastic.
This movie is not Mad God.
We're talking about Shrew's Nest. Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So Monse is a woman who lives with her younger sister. Their parents died. Her mother died when she was giving birth to the little sister, who never actually has a name. They just call her Mi Hermana, or the girl in the credits. She's not given a name until the very, very end. So Monse lives with the younger sister, taking care of her. She's been raising her whole life. Monse works as a seamstress and has massive agoraphobia, and she doesn't like that her little sister goes out into the world and has a job and has men who are interested in her, and she's just not a huge fan of all that. One day, a man knocks at her door. He has fallen down the stairs, broken his leg, and needs help. And she doesn't want to help him, but she does. Eventually, she panics, but she grabs all of his stuff, drags him into the apartment, sets him up in a nice spare bedroom, and says, "Oh, the doctor came to visit you. I can take care of you while you heal because you live by yourself." And immediately you're like, oh God, this is Misery. I definitely felt the Misery and What Happened to Baby Jane vibes right at that moment. And you don't know, like, how unhinged is Monse? She takes morphine just to keep things at bay. She sees her dead father mocking her in their house. She's definitely kind of abusive towards the little sister, and
kind of
not a great. Well, okay,
She whipped her with a stick.
Yeah.
Jesus,
yeah.
like that was
so okay. She is abusive.
That's the first taste of just like where this movie is gonna go in extremity on that level. And it's not even that, like, I mean, she gets cut, right? And there's a little bit of blood. But there's something about that idea. I think it's probably because we associate a switch with childhood and child discipline. And there's just something vicious and just there's an extra level of just meanness involved there, even if it's not overall the most violent or gory thing that you're gonna see eventually in this film. Man, that just the way that popped in took me very much by surprise.
I had forgotten about that because I watched it a few days ago. So yes, very abusive. My bad. I was thinking more like the way that she berates her and stuff. I completely forgot. Yeah, no, she left marks. It's not good. So yeah, she's definitely not doing great, this poor Montse. And that's kind of like the overall plot of the movie that they give you in some kind in the descriptions of the movie and stuff. But then shit goes haywire. It goes so haywire.
Goes
bonkers. Straight up bananas.
Yeah.
Which part? Who dies? Okay. So the sister goes to visit Carlos and keeps saying like, you need to get out of here. She's nutso. And he's like, but I can't get out of here because I was running away because I impregnated a girl and we were going to get married. So I can't go back to my apartment. And the lady's like, bitch, you got to get out of here. And Carlos is like, but I can't. Marriage is scary. And she's like, you're going to die. And he's like, I hate commitment. So he stays. And then the little sister, who I say little sister, but keep in mind these are adults. She's just the younger sister. It's not like a 10-year-old or something. Right. She goes up to Carlos's apartment where his fiance is and catches her and takes the key and goes downstairs and barges into the apartment where Montse finds her. And what did she hit her with?
It's some sort of it's like a desk stand crucifix, but it's got this weird like 3-pronged base. And she swings that base at her, and one of the prongs of the base stabs her in the throat. And then she bleeds out very quickly because
and then Carlos
she did.
Is like,
she got her throat ripped in half.
Yeah, and Carlos is like, oh, I'm sad about this. I didn't want to marry her, but I'm really sad, and now I'm kind of freaked out. And then he tries to escape while Montse is sawing up this woman in the apartment. And then he gets caught, and his leg is sewn to the bed to avoid him leaving. That was... Oh man, that was intense. Then Montse's clients come over, and it's a seamstress and her niece who is getting ready for her wedding. And while Montse is like checking out Carlos or something, the one girl pulls down a piece of fabric, and there's a headless corpse on the body form. And then she moves like a hat.
Yeah, her body form for seamstress work is just a dismembered corpse, right? It's like the head and the extremities are removed, but it was...
Yeah, she's like, oh, I got to keep this. These things are expensive. And then she moves a hat, and the hat was sitting on the fiance's head. So she was like, I'm practical. I will use this lady. And that's just like, Montse, what you doing? That girl, you this is not how you do it. So then of course those two have to die, and then the little sister comes back
involving knitting needles, by the way.
Yeah, there's a lot in this that I was not expecting based on the first half.
The violence really ramps up, especially in the big climactic sequence, the last 15 minutes or so of the film. The violence just goes haywire.
Yeah. And then the little sister comes back downstairs, and then she's like, whoa, shit's crazy. And then she tries to help Carlos get out of the apartment. And, of course, that goes about as well as you'd expect. And then, you have the typical back and forth. But what it boils down to is Montse reveals to her, hey, you know how you're sad that you don't have a picture with your mom because our mom died giving birth to you? Well, I have a picture of you with your mother, and pulls out a picture of herself holding a baby. And I saw that coming, but I was still like, oh my God, this movie, because Montse was raped by her father and then gave birth to this girl and let the girl believe that she was her sister because it was so horrific. And then when the father started to seem like he was going to do the same thing to the little sister, Montse straight up murdered him, which is the best thing that she did in this whole movie.
Yep.
And then she hid him in the apartment and said, he went off to war and he left us here. So that was a big reveal. And then the little sister helps Carlos out of the apartment into the stairwell, and he says, I don't know your name. And she whispers to him, so we don't know the name either. And he says, that's a beautiful name. And then he's barely breathing, and she leaves him, and that's the end of the movie.
She doesn't just leave him, goes back into the apartment and shuts the door. Which I thought was a very clear ending of what they were trying to say, but also, real bleak. That's also par for the course for this movie because, not only is it very violent, very aggressively gory, there's a lot of blood in this movie. There's a lot of really sudden violence. The effect of that dude's leg sewn to the mattress was incredibly
Even just
effective.
as we're getting shots of it healing, just as it's black and blue, I knew it was going to get, there's like a huge lump. He's getting sick from how bad it is. As those are showing, I'm like, this movie has a lot more coming, I think. It was gross. It was really gross.
And part of what I liked so much about this movie is that a lot of the, and it also feeds into where I think the movie made a couple of missteps, is for the first hour or so of this movie, they don't really spoon feed you anything. It's clear enough that if you're paying attention and you follow the details, you can sort out what's happening, right? Like, they don't just tell you flat out that that Montse has agoraphobia and hasn't left the apartment in like 18, 20 years. Right? They don't tell you that, but they slowly layer things on and on through some of like that older lady that she gets her morphine from, some of the things that they talk about. There is that sequence where Montse whips the girl with the switch, and the girl runs out of the apartment, and Montse freezes at the door. And at that moment, I was like, oh, so what she's like, I just assumed it's like, okay, she's going to lock her out there and not let her into the apartment tonight, right? And then it slowly builds all of these layers onto itself, and you slowly understand what's going on without it being, it's not, I thought it was a perfect balance of not too direct, but not too obscured. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Something that I forgot to mention was that very opening where the little girl is recounting when she was little how her sister would come into her room to read bedtime stories, and they were these horrific, scary, sad stories, and she would pretend to be asleep to make it stop. And then they show that the girl has been reading the Bible to her. Yeah. It's that kind of thing where they're just giving you things, and it's like, that is very bold. Yeah. That's a very bold statement at the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't spoon feed, but it
and then of course you definitely pick up right away. I think that the dad is a ghost or some sort of presence in her own mind in those adult scenes. But the place where I feel like it missteps is, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the story of trauma here, and I thought they used those elements of child abuse in a way that wasn't for shock value only and exploitational. I feel like it does play a pivotal role in understanding the plot, but they get to that moment where they've been doing all of this really tasteful and effective and enjoyable layering of ideas to let you sort it all out yourself. And then they just give you all the rest of it in that monologue, right? They just give it all to you. Oh, no, Dad's dead. I killed him because he used to rape me every night because he thought I was Mom, and he was going to do the same thing to you, so I killed him. I felt like there might have been a way to lead into that or present that in a similar fashion to what they had been doing with the rest of the film. I just felt like they almost felt like they got to a point where it's like, okay, we have to just unload all the rest of this on you so that we can get on with the movie. And so that I felt was a little lacking, just in the way that part of the story is revealed. And then I don't know at all what the point is of not telling us the girl's name. I don't understand that element of this at all. It doesn't, at least as far as I can tell, it doesn't tie into the plot anywhere. There's not a reason. Not even the client, Donna Puri, she doesn't even speak. She just calls her the girl, right? She never, and I don't understand what the point of that was. And I thought it felt like something they did just to be a little extra mysterious, but it didn't have a lot of punch for me. I feel like there might be something there that I missed.
I agree with you. I was when I went to prepare for this episode and was grabbing the IMDb, I was like, right, she doesn't have a name, because then I saw the cast, and it's just such a non-point that I had completely forgotten that was an element of it. And that's the final piece of dialogue is in regards to that. So it feels like that should be more important. And I don't know if I also missed it. I mean, this is also a movie from where is this one from? I know it's
Spanish.
in Spanish.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
from Spain.
I couldn't remember the country.
I'm pretty sure it's from Spain.
It is from Spain. Okay. But maybe it's like a cultural thing that we're maybe missing, which is possible.
Sure.
But it could also just be like that there wasn't as much of a point as we all thought there should be. It was just kind of weird that was such a big thing at the end. And it wasn't until he even said that at the end that I realized, like, oh yeah, she hasn't had a name this whole time. Huh, that's kind of odd. Like, it wasn't a big deal to me.
I caught on to that right away. I was like, why are they not telling us her name?
I'm awful with names, so I was just like, oh yeah, the girl, that makes sense. I don't remember her name either.
Well, and that's when I
thought I just forgot it.
I started to try to come up with possible theories. I was like, oh, okay, is this maybe going to be like was she never given a name? Like is she literally a nameless person? Is that part of this trauma and whatever is going on here? And that sort of thing. But there were elements of the story that didn't make sense to me, and certain parts of where they played it off. Also, I don't know about you, but it might have something to do with Macarena Gomez's performance as Montse just being so beautifully unhinged, just amazingly executed. She does such a great job as Montse in this film. I thought the fella who plays Carlos, I believe that's Hugo Silva, I thought was very flat for the entire movie. Like there were moments where I thought he should be a little bit more histrionic than he was, a little bit more flipping out. He just... and again, I don't know if that's a matter of Gomez's performance just overwhelming his presence on the screen or what, because she definitely commands the screen in every scene she's in. But on the flip side of that, though, I thought Luis Tosar as the father did an incredible job of being menacing and abusive, like very patently, obviously abusive and menacing, without ever raising his voice. He never shouts at the girl. He just demeans her, right? Just digs in and tells her how she's awful and how she's terrible and nobody will ever love her. I thought his performance as the father was really excellent and helped to tie a lot of this together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really disagree with any of those points too much. I think if Hugo Silva, aka Carlos, had gone a little bit more extreme with his reactions, it might have been too much, like him feeding off of Macarena and vice versa, and that's why he was very sick in the movie. He hasn't gotten any medical care.
And
so
also,
I think that's
for a lot of
why.
the movie, the more I sit here and think about it, he was supposed to be kind of morphined up. And there were a couple of moments where the morphine started to wear off, where he did get a little caught up in the pain. You know who I thought gave a brilliant performance in just the small fraction of the movie she was in, and I don't know the actress's name, but the actress who played Elise, Carlos's pregnant fiance. She's only on screen for a few minutes, but man, she was perfect, right? She just got that saucy attitude. You can also, look, don't get me wrong, Carlos is a tool, right? He's a dick for abandoning this lady who is carrying his child and who thought he was going to marry her. If you don't want to marry her, fine. Sit down and talk about it like adults and figure out how to deal with this. Don't shirk your responsibilities. But by the same token, you can also feel immediately at least a little bit of why he maybe really wanted to get away from her. She's very tense and very aggressive and very domineering. I thought her performance was stellar. I really enjoyed that little drop in by that actress.
I loved her. If I was ever abducted, I would want somebody to bust that door down and come find me with my leg all messed up and be like, "We're going home. We're getting married now." That's how I got my husband. I found him in an
also
apartment.
immediately noticed, and I have to believe this was a deliberate choice. She's a larger woman than either Montse or the girl, right? And by larger, she's tall. She's significantly taller. She's not. She's just a much larger person, and there's this dominating presence. Like she just controls the room she's in. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed this movie overall. I don't know that it's one I'm going to rush personally myself to see again, but it's definitely one that I'm going to recommend other people check out for sure.
Yeah, this is going on my list of recommendations for very niche interests. Of course, to no one's surprise, I have a very long document with the specific genres that you're interested in and some recommendations, and this one's getting put on there. I was very, very surprised, especially because I was a little bored but still paying attention at the beginning. And then the way it amps up, I did not expect in the least.
Yeah, I also very much really enjoyed the subtle presence of religion in the film, right? There is that suggestion in the opening sequence that she's reading these horrific stories of terrible things, and they're coming from the Bible, which I don't know how many stories from the Bible you know, but there is some terrible shit in that book so far as violence and brutality. It's pretty aggressive at times. But I liked how it serves as a backdrop that informs their situation, but the movie is never explicitly a critique of religion, right, or a critique of Christianity. It layers that in as part of the culture that this movie happens in, and definitely makes it clear that there's an element of influence from it here, but it certainly doesn't place the entire burden solely on the religious factor.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of one of those things that was there, but was definitely not responsible for what's going on. The person responsible for all of this was Montse's horrific father, not Jesus.
Yeah.
That father is a piece of garbage.
I really appreciate that, obviously sometimes horror movies do require a bleak ending. There is that very much that implication that the cycle has now started all over again with this horrific experience that the girl has had with Montse. She finds her father's corpse in a boarded up fireplace, and there's a picture in there. And you said you had figured it out. I'll be honest with you. I figured it out kind of. The instant she said, there's like when she's sitting there dying because the girl has stabbed her several times in defense of herself. When Montse says there is a photo of you with your mother, for some reason, just that line, it just immediately rolled into my head. I'm like, oh shit, she's gonna find the picture and it's gonna be her. She's the mother, not the sister. So I did catch it, but it didn't hit me until right before the reveal.
I caught about 20 to 30 minutes in. Just one of the interactions with the father, I went, he's kind of lusting after her. That's kind of gross. I picked up the implications and I went, I have ideas of just how bad this guy is. Because the way that they were saying that the mother died in childbirth, I just kept being like, I don't know. That feels off. I'm really suspicious of this man and his gigantic eyebrows. I don't trust him. So, I picked it up and I was like, haha. I yelled while I was watching with my friend. I was like, I was right.
Yeah,
I knew it. So proud.
So I think overall, I got to recommend you go take a look at Shrew's Nest. Again, especially if you like Stephen King-y, more real life horror. More rooted in, there's no supernatural elements here. The presence of the father is very clearly not a ghost. It's something happening in Montse's head. It's a depiction of her psychosis in a lot of ways. But it's a very straightforward, real world type of horror movie. Again, fair warning, especially towards the end, it does get very violent and very bloody. So if you're a little squeamish, this might not be, you might want to at least steel yourself going in. But yeah, if you find yourself on a rainy day looking for something to watch on Shudder, I can't recommend Shrew's Nest highly enough.
As I've learned from Duolingo, this movie es muy bueno. La película es muy buena. Haha, I'm learning. Thanks, Owl.
Esta película.
Oh.
Esta película.
But I was saying
this
the movie.
Picture.
I was saying the movie.
Right, but I'm saying this picture.
Okay, whatever.
So.
Anyway. Duolingo, thank you for helping.
Oh.
Well,
so with that in mind, then, Michelle.
Yeah,
what do we got coming up next week on We Watch Shudder?
We have a movie called Nocebo, and I try not to know much about movies, but I do know that this has Eva Green in it, and Eva Green can do no wrong, so I'm very worried. Please don't do me any wrong, Eva. I love you. I love you so much. Don't screw up this movie.
What did we say the title of the movie was?
Nocebo.
Oh, right. Nocebo, like placebo, except with a no at the beginning.
Yes, Nocebo.
And that's literally all I know about it, is that it's called Nocebo. And now I know that
now
Eva
you know
Green
that it
has
has Eva Green.
Right.
I just love her. I
so
saw
my
her in the
entire
cast.
assumption, based on the name Nocebo, is that it probably has something to do with... I don't know if that relates to placebos is all, but because they sound similar, I'm assuming there's a connection. I guess we'll all find out together.
Nocebo is an actual term for stuff, which now I won't tell you what it means, but it's a word used outside of this movie. So, you'll have to watch the movie to figure out.
Thanks for ruining my night, Michelle. Now I'm just going to spend the day researching nocebos and find out what that's all about.
You better not. We have a movie to watch next
fair.
week.
That's fair.
You can't know what it is. So you're going to have to find out from Eva Green, the beautiful statuesque human that she is. She'll tell you. I don't know how it relates to this movie anyway. I just know it. I know
the first time I saw Eva Green was in that weird movie about the Crusades that I think Ridley Scott made. But the first time I remember Eva Green is as Vesper Lynd in the first Daniel Craig James Bond movie, Casino Royale. And yes, what an attractive human being.
Penny Dreadful. I'm all about Penny Dreadful.
Right
I love
on, right
her.
on.
Yep.
So Nocebo.
Okay. Well, enough about Eva Green. We can keep it for next week. I will be fawning over her, and I hope the movie doesn't suck, but I will still love her all the same. She's like oh my God, why did I forget Daniel's lap? Nope, not Daniel. Nope, never mind. The Ayakash movie person. This is why I said I'm terrible with names. So if I had a little sister who I had raised and she was actually my daughter, I would just forget her name too. So that's why for me, I'm like, fuck, hang on, I wrote it down someplace. Hang on, what did I call you? Oh, your name is the girl. Okay, I figured it out. Good night, Michelle.